scoop Paul up because for some strange reason Paul couldn't see no more. You telling me that because my Bible was written by men, that those men was stupid for dying? They didn't have the advantage of a New Testament back then. They were still in the process of trying to get it wrote up. But they were willing to die. Luke, the guy you was talking about, y'all don't believe me in Casey. Read Fox's Book of Martyrs. See what happened to Luke because he wouldn't renounce Jesus Christ. A lot of these, like the disciples, a few of them, they wasn't killed necessarily because they wouldn't renounce Christ. They was killed because they wouldn't make a sacrifice to a God that they knew would anger their God. Like, if you don't sacrifice to... Jupiter was really big back then, apparently.
Wait a minute. Wait. Jupiter was a pagan god. They never persecuted Christians. They were guiltless.
They was being oppressed at that time, apparently.
I guess.
And they really wanted them to make this sacrifice. And Hunter was like, well, maybe they just didn't want to kill nothing. And I was like, Hunter, they could have thrown some incense on, burnt some incense. Throw the apple on the fire. Something. But you see, they had saw the power of Jesus Christ because they were with him. And there was no way any of these men who were writing these books of our New Testament, there was no way anybody could convince them that that man wasn't real and that he wasn't, and this is the most important part, that he wasn't who he said he was. Now, we get picked on a lot because they say, you got to believe the whole Bible. You can't cherry pick it. Absolutely. That's true. The Old Testament does say some pretty crazy stuff, man. If you get looking in Leviticus and all of the Jewish law, and we've talked about this before. We're Christians. We're not Jews. Check out some of Paul's writings, like I said Tuesday. Read Galatians. Paul was pretty clear. See, Jesus came, law fulfilled. We don't have to do that no more. And why y'all want to do that to my boy Titus anyway? That ain't right. He's Greek.
Well, everybody wants to bring up the God of the Old Testament as if the God of the Old Testament is not also the same God that the New Testament talks about. Well, God had people do some really violent things to other people.
Yep. Who? Now, wait a minute. Let's not pretend for a second that the people that God was sicking his Jews on were particularly nice people. Some of them were throwing babies on the fire to their pagan god Baal.
Yes.
So it ain't like they was, Miss Nicey Pants.
But, when you, as a Christian, we know that God has his reasons for doing things. He didn't tell them, look, go down, ask them if they'll convert. If they don't convert, kill them. He told them to go and clean out Canaan. Or if they didn't, they was going to be fighting with these same people. And these same people was going to be leading them into doing things that was going to make God angry.
That's right.
God was right and they was wrong because they didn't go and clean out Canaan like he told them to. And they ended up being led astray and going back to some of those false idols and made God angry. And he would send a prophet to say, look, if you don't straighten up, I'm going to let Nebuchadnezzar come in here.
I'm going to let them people have you.
And make y'all slaves to Persia. And they didn't listen, and so Nebuchadnezzar walked right on in and took them for slaves. And, there's a whole lot. You do actually have to read the whole Bible.
If you keep reading there in the Old Testament, you'll come to this book, though, if you get past the law, right? All that stuff, that crazy stuff about shellfish and women sleeping outside and, stoning people. And if you get past that, you'll come to this book called Ecclesiastes.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this king, see. People still talk about him today because he was really wise. The wisdom of King Solomon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Solomon wrote down, a lot of his wisdom. And in Ecclesiastes, he explains some of God's ways. And apparently, they were still pretty valid by some of them hippy-dippies in the 60s. Because they even put some of that to words and music,
Oh, yeah.
There is a time and a season for everything. And see, like last night, our preacher got kind of... He kind of got a little funny with me last night because he was like, you just wanting to fight somebody. And no, that's not it at all. But I do believe there's a time for righteous indignation. And I believe that because the book of Ecclesiastes tells me that there is a time for peace. There is a time for war. There is a time to plant and a time to pluck up what you've planted. There's a time for gathering stones. There's a time for throwing stones. There is a time to heal. And guess what?
A time to kill.
There's a time to kill too. There's a time for everything. Now, one thing I really agreed with my pastor about last night is I don't have the strength that those first apostles there in the Fox's Book of Martyrs, man, I don't have their strength. Because even knowing that every time one of those people willingly gave their life, God's kingdom grew heavily. Because there were Romans that was standing there in the Colosseum when these Christians are walking into the Colosseum knowing dang well that a bunch of lions and tigers and bears, oh my, is finna rip them to shreds. They was smiling, praising God,
and
praising
singing.
Christ.
And singing.
And singing. There were Romans watching that going, whoa, there must be something to that. See, I don't have that kind of... I'm more along the lines of like Samson. Not that I'm big and I'm bad and I'm strong, but give me a donkey jawbone and I'll start to swinging. If I got to die, okay, I'm cool with that. But I don't mind taking somebody with me. I mean, I'm like, let's go to Megiddo tomorrow and let's do this. Let's put your God up against my God, and let's just do this. Let's get it on, get it over with. I'm willing to bet my life. I'm willing to bet my soul to the atheists and pagans and witches. Are you? Because if I'm wrong about all of this, well, I guess I'm just stupid. And I've lived a decent life. I've been really good to my kids. I'm faithful to my wife.
You racist.
Yeah. I do unto others as I would have them do unto me. Oh, how stupid I am. And if I'm right about all of this, see, I get to go and walk into paradise and hear the words, well done, my good and faithful servant. And if y'all are wrong and I'm right, then when you die, you are going to hear, who are you? Get away from me. As a matter of fact, get away from me into everlasting torment. Now look, I don't believe in scaring people with, you gonna go to hell if you act that way. Look, no, that's not what I'm saying. But if you just have to put a fine point on things about being right and being wrong, I'm willing to bet my life. I'm willing to put my neck. I'm willing to bet a pound of my flesh for what I believe, for my faith. Are you? And you that believe that we're an accident, when you die, nothing happens, it's just over. Man, do I feel bad for y'all. That is so sad to me.
Or
this is it, really?
Or the ones who worship the Earth Mother or whatever.
Oh, yeah, she's going to take good care of you. Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, would you? Are you willing to fight for Earth Mother Gaia or Jupiter? Or,
well, now look, there is some eco groups that are willing to fight, not fair, mind you. They're willing to commit acts of terrorism and blow things up when there ain't nobody around to,
to catch them.
To catch them or fight them. But somehow I just don't think they're willing to fight. Like, really fight for what they believe.
No, they believe in forming a mob that outnumbers the police.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And throwing rocks and Molotov cocktails from a mob, an anonymous mob.
Mm-hmm. Or worse than that, they believe in getting on social media and fighting people with their mighty keyboard.
And telling everybody they're a centrist.
Yeah. Or telling everybody that because they are a Christian, then they're a fascist or a racist. Or because they have Christian beliefs that they're not good for this country. It's funny to me because a lot of the people that are agreeing with me and other people like us on Facebook, it's funny. We share something in common in that we have actually put on a uniform and been in a foreign land and been willing to fight and die for this country. Whereas 98% of the keyboard warriors out there, they won't even sissy fight with you. They won't even have a slap fest. Because, one word, cowardice. See, you want to ask me why I am so strong in my faith? One word. It's one thing that my faith gives me that your atheism and paganism and Wiccanism and all the other isms don't give you. Courage. And that actually goes to the people that follow in Muhammad too. Sorry. Don't take a lot of guts to shoot yourself up with dope and blow up a bunch of women and kids while they're watching a movie or picking fruit up in the shopping center.
Or to behead a man who's on his knees with his hands tied behind his back.
Oh, yeah, big man. Big man.
It takes zero courage to sit there and gun down, prisoners who are tied up and can't fight back.
Or let's just put it another way. Would those people be willing to go and lay their neck on a chopping block, though, to defend Muhammad? Because if it comes right down to it, as a Christian, while I would be petrified, I like to think that if I just had to, if I was in a position like Paul, that I would go and lay my neck down. If the only way I'm going to win any souls to Jesus Christ, if the only way I can do that is by laying my neck down, okay. Because once you make that cut, brother, I'm took care of. Are you, though? Are you willing to lay your neck down to defend nothing? To believe in nothing? I just don't think so. In all of those, the witches, they're the funniest to me because they want to throw up all the witch burnings,
Mm-hmm.
You know how many witches were burnt? In like really burnt. You a witch, we burning you during that, during those times.
It wasn't
37 in a 100-year period. Boy, that's staggering. Man, they killed 37 Christians in a week. In a week. There's been a lot of things done wrong in the name of Christianity. But don't play with me like there hadn't been a whole lot of wrong done in the name of paganism or Gaia or the spirit in the sky or Shiva. Come on, man. Don't act like there's been no evil done for what you believe. Don't act like there hadn't been no atheist